Shabbat Shalom. It's really good to be back. I missed you. Last week I had Shabbat on the beach on the Atlantic Ocean, and I missed you anyway. Can you believe this? We had, and it is kind of impossible to believe if you're from Shreveport, Louisiana, but there were 2 Shabbat services going on at the same time on this little patch of beach. There was a conservative shul that had twice a year, it said twice a year they have services on the beach, and by twice a year they mean at the beginning of the summer and the end of the summer. and they had guitars and they had drums. It wasn't like any conservative shul we know. And lots of people. At first there were only a few, and I was saying, well, this is kind of embarrassing because we weren't planning to join with them, but maybe we should if they need a minyan. And then they had plenty of people, and they were singing, and that was fun. And we walked by in the beginning and sang with them. We walked by in the end and sang with them. But if you don't know, I was with my Snifty buddies. So here you had Softy. You know what Softy was, the Southern Federation of Temple Youth. So these were the kids that were in my youth group with me, ranging from Rockland County, New York, all of central New York, all the way up to Syracuse and Albany and Newburgh and Poughkeepsie and Pearl River, New City, Spring Valley. Those were all part of our region. And there were people we had nine kids. I call us kids now, but we're all in our 50s now. And when we all realized, and you know this, because if you've ever known anybody who was in youth group, that you go to high school and you don't really feel a part of high school. And then you get to one of these conclaves and people get you. I mean, they like you. They think you're cool. Usually you're invisible and they think you're cool. And it was kind of awesome because 40 years later, we still think each other is cool. And now we really are. The guys are cool, but with no hair and big bellies. The girls still look really cute. They're really cute. But the guys didn't age as gracefully as the girls. But it was still fun. Some of you have met some of the people from my group. One weekend, Eric, who was kind of a clown and didn't seem to ever take anything seriously. He is now a pediatric oncologist. He goes to Mongolia every year and saves kids. Spends 2 weeks every year in Mongolia saving kids there. He works for a St. Baldrick's hospital, so now he's shaving his head every year in solidarity with the kids. And that's Eric. And he was like the cut-up of the group. And everybody is doing well, and it was really nice to see them. We've hit a stage in our lives where 3 of us had life-threatening situations. One had a stroke. He tells his story so funny. This is how this guy usually is. Bruce, he told his story, and it was so funny that I don't know that any of us know exactly what happened, but there was something in his brain, and probably the doctors in here will know what I'm talking about, but we had no idea. It was called a shawarma, but it's not called a shawarma. Does that mean something to you? The shawarma that was near it's near the auditory and the ocular. Does it sound like a shawarma to you? Say it again? So he was calling it these funny, he said, I know that he told me what it is, but I'm calling it a shawarma and I'm calling it a this. And we were laughing so hard, and this guy had this serious thing that he didn't know he was going to survive, and we were hysterical. But that's typical Bruce. And we turned into 15-year-olds so quickly, I can't even begin to tell you. It was embarrassing, the things we were giggling about. And I needed that. And for those of you who know, I drove from here through Bentonville and saw that really cool art museum. And I did not expect this only until the end of August. I think it's closing September 1st. I didn't know about this at all. Bethany had gone and she told me, you want to go see this museum? And as I was driving around, every 2 hours I needed a pit stop. And I got to this museum and I needed a pit stop. And they send me downstairs and I'm in Israel. And there's all of this architecture of Israel everywhere I turned. First it was Ben Gurion Airport, then it was the Kotel, and it was Hebrew Union College, and it was Yad Vashem, and it was the man who was the architect for the museum in Bentonville, Arkansas, is a guy named Moshe Safdie, who also designed all of these other places in Israel. And so throughout the building, they have this world geography exhibit of architecture of his all around the world. But downstairs on the way to the bathroom, it was all Israel. And I was just in shock, and I would have been happy if that's all I saw, but there's much more, and it's a beautiful museum. I hope we go there someday, maybe on a trip, because it was really beautiful. And I went to St. Louis and picked up the song leader, and we drove, unfortunately, straight through the night, all the way to Atlantic City. We left at 4:30 in the evening and got there at 10 o'clock in the morning, ready to spend a whole day hanging out at the beach and things. And then on the way back, we did the same drive in the reverse. But I didn't go through Arkansas. Does anybody have I'm afraid to look at a map after the fact. I plug in my GPS, and on the GPS, if you've ever used a GPS, it always looks like you're going straight. It's like having a triptych. It doesn't matter if you turn the page, you're always on a straight line. So somehow I wound up in Oklahoma on my way there, and I can't imagine why I did, but it seemed like a good idea. And it was great pizza in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. So I don't know if that was a good thing or not, but it was part of the adventure, and I loved it, and I'm glad to be back, but it was fun anyway. And last Shabbat, I was with this gang and sent me back many, many, many years, and I'm very, very glad to be back here with you, though, today. I told lots of stories about how happy I am. I can't tell you how many of them there said, we have an opening here. One of them lives in Florida, and you know whose rabbi he has? Is Matchison, is his rabbi. Rabbi Michael Matchison is his rabbi now. So there's connections everywhere. You always, like Mom says, always wear clean underwear. You never know who you're going to bump into, and who's going to, how you're always connected. And it was wonderful, and I really appreciate Helene covering both those weeks so that I could do that. Thank you very much. So today we're winding down the end of our summer of not having assigned blessers, but so I hope that you're enjoying that everyone here gets the honor. And by the way, let me explain. The pulpit is up on the bima because we had the funeral on Tuesday, and we're very sorry, Jackie, for your loss. And we had a memorial service today, and we have another funeral for Sylvia Katz on Sunday. And so this is the configuration that we need to keep the pulpit in for those things. And then next week for Daisy's bat mitzvah, it's going to be up here too. So we decided to just leave it up here for this 1 week. And that's why it's there. So I've got to come down for this. We are going to do service 3 with the little modifications, but we're on page 82. And I invite you all to please rise and help me with the honor of lighting the candles and blessing the wine. On page 82, please join me. These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. You're welcome to do it in English. You can do it simultaneously. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We now continue on page 165, and if you need the translation, it's on 166. As we sanctify Shabbat, and this time we use wine, or not quite wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים. You may be seated if you say Shabbat Shalom to someone near you, please. Good Shabbos. Someone you came in with, someone you didn't come in with. Make sure you cover everybody. Make sure everybody here had somebody say Shabbat Shalom to them. And we turn back to page 83. I'm not pretending that the world got to be better just because I was gone and on vacation, because very many difficult things happened during those weeks, as we've already discussed a few of them. And I hope that as we read the service, we find some comfort and some hope. If you continue at the bottom of 83, there are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own.
On Shabbat, we wish not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we think only of ourselves.
On Shabbat, we open our hearts to the needs of others.
Therefore, we welcome Shabbat.
Day of rest, day of peace.
We welcome the angels that accompany us on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Halachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedechem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace.
Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples.
Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here, and here find life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uvizman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'almei almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, shmeh du'kudisha, brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירון בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us, in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your presence. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision of the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Hamas, violence, shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you, God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shores of the Red Sea. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele, malchutecha ra'u v'anecha, bokei hayam livnei Moshe, zelianu ve'ameru, Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed.
V'ne'emar, and it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time